Welcome back to Out of the Pout TV, where I'll be highlighting the new and interesting movies and shows that I've discovered this past week. In this video, we're going to dive into all the stuff that is Halloween and scary. Get your trick-or-treat on and cover all the Halloween themed stuff that's now streaming. Also, I'm going to place some links to the sections in the streaming services that you can click on and go directly to and help find even more stuff. Click on those links, they'll take you all to the Halloween themed areas. Hopefully all that helps you to get your Hallows Eve on. Now, I've tried to break these down into kind of categories for Halloween. So now we have the next category, which is psycho killer and horror. So I kind of squish those together. Anyway, first up from Hulu is American Horror Stories. This is season 1. It's an anthology series of different stories, kind of themselves, who delve into horror myths, legends, and lore. I think the first one is actually a two-parter, but the rest are kind of all lone stories, and that's American Horror Stories on Hulu. Now on Prime, we have Hellraiser from 1984. So an unfaithful wife encounters the zombie of her dead lover while the demonic Cenobites are pursuing him after he escaped their sadomasochistic underworld. Yeah, that's a lot. And this movie has a lot, so this isn't for everybody. There's a whole series of sequels to them as well. They get really dark, but check this out if you're into it. It's Hellraiser 1984 on Prime. So next we have Friday the 13th. This is the 2009 version on HBO. So a group of college students disappear on a trip to the infamous Camp Crystal Lake. Now, Clay Miller must find his missing sister. He ventures deep into the merciless forest and comes face to face with the unrelenting killer, Jason Voorhees. And yeah, we all know Friday the 13th. We all know Jason. So check out this 2009 version on HBO. Another big series is Final Destination. All 5 films are also on HBO. And what we have is a horrifying premonition saves a young man and his friends from death during a racetrack accident. But terrible fates await them nonetheless. So basically all these people are trying to cheat death, so to speak, and they have to try to avoid all these situations where death is trying to kill them because they avoided him initially. So that's Final Destination on HBO. So who isn't scared of clowns? I mean, right next to Santa, right? Well, anyway, we have 2017's It on HBO, and there's also a sequel which isn't half bad as well. So a group of kids take on a murderous, shape-shifting clown creature that haunts their town in this terrifying adaptation of Stephen King's novel, of course, Stephen King. So that is It on HBO. So next we have something new on Netflix called There's Someone Inside Your House. So Makani and her friends in Osborne High School try to identify and stop a mass killer who's targeting students and exposing their biggest secrets. So who is this masked guy killing all their friends and then exposing them? And a lot of social media kind of stuff going on there. And that's There's Someone Inside Your House on Netflix. So a couple more on Netflix. We have the Chestnut Man, which is also new. So at a grisly murder scene sets a figurine made of chestnuts. It's kind of a little creepy guy. From this creepy clue, 2 detectives hunt a killer linked to a politician's missing child. So that's the Chestnut Man. And also on Netflix, The Cave from 2005. So if you're afraid of the dark, or you like that kind of thing, this is the thing for you. This and The Descent, I think, are very similar. But this is The Cave on Netflix. This is a horror movie where a group of divers become trapped in a cave full of bloodthirsty creatures. It takes being afraid of the dark to a whole new level. And I think there's some sequels to these too, but the original one is on Netflix right now. Check that one out. So Amazon Prime Video has remade the classic series I Know What You Did Last Summer. So we have the originals, but this is brand new, and all it takes place in a town full of secrets. A group of teenagers are stalked by a mysterious killer a year and a half after a fatal accident on their graduation night. So we all know what happens. Everyone slowly gets killed, except who's going to be left, who's going to find this guy. We'll soon see. So catch that on Prime. The last one in this category is a personal favorite. I really enjoyed this movie, and sadly it didn't get as much notice when it came out originally in 2013. It's on Prime. It's called Odd Thomas. It's a wonderful hidden gem of a horror movie. What we have is small-town fry cook, sadly portrayed by the late Anton Yelchin, who died way too soon, and I'm sure you may know him as Chekhov in the newer Star Trek films. Anyway, he plays this ordinary guy, but he has paranormal secret. He sees dead people everywhere. So when a creepy stranger shows up with an entourage of ghostly weirdos, predators who feed on pain and mass destruction, Thomas knows that his town is in serious trouble. So teaming up with his sweetheart, Stormy, which is played by Addison Timlin, and the local sheriff, Willem Dafoe, Thomas plunges into an epic battle of good versus evil to try to stop the disaster of huge proportions. Now this is very well done, and it sounds pretty typical, but this movie really has a really touching ending which you never see in this genre. It's all based on the best-selling thriller by Dean Koontz, and that's Odd Thomas. Okay, let's talk zombies. We have Kingdom on Netflix, 2019. This zombie thriller set in Korea's medieval Joseon dynasty, which has been defeated by corruption and famine. A mysterious rumor of the king's death spreads as does a strange plague that renders the infected immune to death and hungry for flesh. I wouldn't say they're immune to death. I think they just rise up and become the undead. The Crown Prince, fallen victim to a conspiracy, sets out on a journey to unveil the evil scheme and save his people and find out the secret of why this is happening. So, very well done. I think there is 2 seasons of this. So that's Kingdom, 2019 Netflix, and there's even a prequel as well. So I can remember that. All very well made. And that's Kingdom on Netflix. So also on Netflix is Daybreak from 2019. For some reason this didn't get a lot of publicity, but I was pleasantly surprised by this series that doesn't take itself too seriously. And it was certainly fun to see Matthew Broderick pop up in it. We have our main character living his best life in post-apocalyptic LA, like the Valley. High school living in the Valley, where a slacker thrives to find the girl of his dreams while outwitting mindless ghouls and cliquish gangs around him. It's almost like high school in the zombie era. We have Daybreak on Netflix. Next we have the new classic, Train to Busan, and that's on Prime. So we have a father who doesn't have much time for his daughter, and they are boarding a fast train that shall bring them to Seoul, from Seoul to Busan. But during the journey, the apocalypse begins, and most of the Earth's population become flesh-craving zombies. So while the train is shooting towards Busan, the passengers fight for their families and lives against the zombies on the train. And of course, each other. Very well made. That's Train to Busan. Next we have the classic series, starting with the original, Resident Evil. You can find that on Hulu, Epix, AMC+, DirecTV. So when a virus leaks from a top-secret facility, turning all residents researchers into ravenous zombies and their lab animals into mutated hounds from hell, the government sends in an elite military task force to contain the outbreak. Now our main character, Alice, and Rain, a friend of hers, are charged with leading the mission. But they only have 3 hours before the pathogen becomes airborne and infects the world. So if they don't do it by then, the whole place gets blown up to try to stop the spread. This features Mila Jovovich, I'm butchering names, and Michelle Rodriguez. No, Resident Evil Retribution is on Hulu, and the new Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City is coming out in November. So check that out on Fubu, Epix, AMC+, DirecTV, the original Resident Evil. So next on Netflix we have Black Summer. Now there's 2 seasons of this. Loosely follow a mother torn from her daughter embarks on a harrowing journey, stopping at nothing to find her. Thrust alongside a small group of American refugees, she must brave a hostile new world and make brutal decisions during the most deadly summer of a zombie apocalypse. I have problems with that word, apocalypse. There's got to be another word. Is there an easier word than apocalypse? Anyway, so that's Black Summer on Netflix. Very good, especially the first season. Now this next one could probably fit into another category I have coming up. But it's from 2013, it's on HBO, and it's called Warm Bodies. So with much of the world's population now undead horde, R, and that's it, that's his name, R, just the letter R, is a young and oddly introspective zombie while fighting with and feeding on human scavenger party. Yeah, we get his perspective. We get the zombie perspective. So while fighting with and feeding on a human scavenger party, R meets Julie and feels an urge to protect her. What happens next is the beginning of a strangely warm relationship that allows R, the zombie, to begin regaining his humanity. So as this change that he is experiencing also spreads through the local undead population like a virus, Julie and R eventually have to face a larger issue when they when every nature of their friendship is challenged. Caught between the paranoid human forces and the ferocious bonies, which are like hyped up zombies or creatures. It's like you have the zombies, and then you have the bonies, who are like zombies on steroids and much more evil. So yeah, the paranoid human forces and the ferocious bonies, zombies who are a mutual threat, Ara and Julie must find a way to bridge the differences of each side to fight for a better world no one thought possible. This has Nicholas Hoult and Teresa Palmer and John Malkovich, and that's 2013's Warm Bodies on HBO. So like I said, Warm Bodies could very well fall into this next category, which I call a little off-center. So it's a nice bridge. And this next film isn't so much scary, but just a little off-center. And it's called Colossal. It's on Hulu, and it stars Anne Hathaway and Jason Sudeikis. Anne Hathaway plays Gloria, who is an in and out of work party girl forced to leave her life in New York City and move back home. So when reports surface that a giant creature is destroying Seoul, Korea, everything keeps going back to, she gradually comes to the realization that she is somehow connected to this phenomenon. So very weird twist into this film, but very interesting to follow, and that's Colossal on Hulu. Now, the next one I'm talking about, the movie from 2014, and it's What We Do in the Shadows. This is on Fubo. So the pseudo-documentary where vampire housemates try to cope with the complexities of modern life and show a newly turned hipster some of the perks of being the undead and how powerful they all are. It's done tongue-in-cheek. It's from New Zealand. It's hilarious. There's also a show now that has 3 seasons that you can watch on Hulu, but I really enjoyed this original movie from 2014, What We Do in the Shadows. The next film I talked about recently also in a previous video, and it's called Love and Monsters. It's on Hulu, and I think Epix has it as well. So 7 years after the monster apocalypse, Joel Dawson, along with the rest of humanity, have been living underground ever since giant creatures took control of the land. After reconnecting over radio with his high school girlfriend Amy, who is now 80 miles away at a coastal colony, Joel begins to fall for her again. So as Joel realizes there's nothing left for him underground, he decides against all logic to venture out to go to Amy, despite all of the dangerous monsters that stand in his way. So this is a fun-filled, action-packed adventure. Truly enjoyed it. It's Love and Monsters on Hulu. Now this next one is a kind of an old, campy 80s classic from 1985 called Reanimator. It's interesting. It comes out of that same kind of Evil Dead thought process and dark humor. It's on Tubi and AMC+. But let me say up front, there are some scenes in this movie that you cannot unsee. Some definite, oh my God, they went there moments. So what we have is this is an H.P. Lovecraft kind of story, obsessed with the idea of overcoming the obstacle of death and determined to vindicate himself by backing up his theory. This ambitious medical student arrives in New England after a horrific incident at the Institute of Medicine in Switzerland. Before long, Herbert will pick up where his professor has left off, at first experimenting with dead feline tissue and then with fresh human cadavers. Talking his roommate into joining his audacious project, inevitably as the 2 young scientists burrow deeper and deeper into uncharted territories, the campus will start brimming with his reanimated corpses. So this is a crazy, dark humor film, Reanimator, with Jeffrey Combs and Barbara Crampton. So yes, I am going there. Zombie strippers on Prime. In the not too distant future, a secret government reanimation chemo virus gets released into conservative Nebraska and lands in an underground strip club. They're everywhere, right? As the virus begins to spread, turning the strippers into super zombie strippers. It stars Jenna Jameson, of course, and Robert Englund. That's Zombie Strippers on Prime. Okay, this next one is just stupid silliness. It's not horror or scary in any way, unlike the other ones. But anyway, we have Transylvania 65000, 1985. It's on Prime. This is probably, I think this is where Jeff Goldblum and Gina Davis met. And she wears this very interesting vampire outfit. So 2 tabloid reporters are sent to Transylvania with 2 choices: find the Frankenstein monster or find new jobs. But before the journalists can dig up their big story, they must first face the horrors of an extremely clumsy butler, a nymphomaniac vampirist, and a semi-mad doctor, as well as assorted mummies, werewolves, and more Transylvania oddballs and stuff. Can these two bubbling heroes unravel this monster mystery, or are they in some very scary surprises? So it stars Ed Begley Jr. and Carol Kane as well, along with Jeff Goldblum and Gina Davis. And that's Transylvania 65000. I can't say for sure it's a good movie, but it is silly and weird. So check that one out if you like, on Prime. So next on Hulu, we have Little Monsters from 2019. So don't get this confused with the older Fred Savage movie. In this one, we have main character Dave has decided to get over his recent breakup by seeking an escape with his nephew Felix by accompanying him on a school trip, among other things. So this also gets him closer to one of the teachers, Miss Caroline, who he kind of likes. So everything seems normal, at least until a zombie invasion breaks out in the middle of all this that will threaten Dave's plans to kind of get away and meet this other girl. So, bummer, zombies. So anyway, that's Little Monsters on Hulu, 2019 version. So the next one also has a sequel, but I'm talking about the original Babysitter from 2017 on Netflix. So Cole loves his babysitter, Bee. She's hot, funny, and popular. One night, in a moment of defiance, Cole secretly stays up past his bedtime to discover that she's actually a cold-blooded killer who is in league with the devil, along with her friends. He now must spend the rest of the night evading Bee's band of killers who will stop at nothing to prevent Cole from spilling their dark secret. So it's up to Cole to survive the night and maybe blow up a few people along the way. So that's The Babysitter. Next on HBO, we have Freaky. So I did this one recently too. So 70-year-old Millie spends her days trying to survive high school. We've all been there. And the cruel actions of the popular crowd. We've been there. But when she becomes the latest target of the butcher, the town's infamous serial killer, I don't think I've been there. Her senior year becomes the least of her worries. When the butcher uses this mystical dagger, it causes him and Millie to magically switch bodies. The frightened teen learns she has just 24 hours to get her identity back, so switch back with the killer in the bodies, before she looks like a middle-aged maniac forever. This is a great twist on the body-swapping genre, and to top it off, it stars Vince Vaughn. So check that one out, Freaky on HBO. So just, again, keep in mind this is a little off-center category. And we next have The Night Watchmen on Hulu. So 3 inept Night Watchmen, aided by a young rookie and a fearless tabloid journalist, fight an epic battle to save their lives. The mistaken warehouse delivery unleashes a horde of hungry vampires, and these unlikely heroes must not only save themselves, but also stop the scourge that threatens to take over the city of Baltimore. So that's The Night Watchmen. It's a little goofy, but it seems like a lot of fun. So finally in this category is an all-time great, Cabin in the Woods. This is a dark, satiric humor at its finest. 5 teenagers head off for a weekend at a secluded cabin in the woods. They arrive to find they are quite isolated with no means of communication with the outside world. When the cellar door flings itself open, they of course go down to investigate. Who wouldn't? They find an odd assortment of relics and curios, but when one of the women reads from a book, she awakens a family of deadly zombie killers. I hate it when that happens. However, there's far more going on than meets the eye. As in, it gets really crazy. So this stars Kristen Connolly, Chris Hemsworth, Anna Hutchinson, and a bunch of other people that you're going to recognize. That's Cabin in the Woods. Great fun. Very good film. Check that one out. Okay, I wasn't sure if I was going to do this category, but let's do one for the kids. Disney Plus has a tons of stuff on there for kids. You cannot miss it. There's just a lot of shows and features on there for kids Halloween. Also on Hulu, they have The Addams Family. They just snap your fingers. They're back on the big screen. This is a first animated comedy about the Cookies family on the block. Utterly iconic. The Addams Family redefines what it means to be a good neighbor. So that's on Hulu. Also on Netflix is Scaredy Cat. A group of girls find out that there are witches and they must learn and save their powers and their friends, and there's cats involved, literally. So Scaredy Cat. We also have the 1995 version of Casper, which is on Fubo, DirecTV, Freedom, Sling. So we have this afterlife therapist and his daughter meet a friendly young ghost when they move into a crumbling mansion in order to rid their premises of wicked spirits. It's a good version of Casper. It's fun. Kids will like it. So we come to the classic kids film Hocus Pocus from 1993. This is on Disney Plus. So after 300 years of slumber, 3 sister witches are accidentally resurrected in Salem on Halloween night. Not a good thing. And there's up to 3 kids and their newfound feline friend to put an end to the witch's reign of terror once and for all. So this stars Bette Midler, who does a fantastic job of this, and Sarah Jessica Parker. That's Hocus Pocus on Disney Plus. So the last one is from 2016 on Netflix called Monster House. So no adults believe 3 kids' assertion that a neighboring residence is a living creature that means them harm. So with Halloween approaching, the trio must find a way to destroy the structure before innocent trick-or-treaters meet ghastly ends. Oh no. So that's Monster House on Netflix. Thanks for joining us. That's the end of part 2 of the Trick-or-Treat Parade. Don't forget to subscribe and comment, and I will see you later. Thanks.